Alright, so today we'll be talking about laws we never thought existing. So, because these things are basic and we've been doing them or using them as our resources, and yet we don't know if there are laws for these resources. So, today we'll be talking about six legal frameworks or laws that are really existing up to this day, that are very important to our daily lives as human beings and as workers of different industries. Okay, so first we have frameworks of environmental regulations. Okay, that's very important. So we have five, I think we have five or six frameworks of environmental regulations that we'll be talking about that later on. So first we have frameworks of environmental regulations. Second is RA 8749 or Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999. Third is our RA 6969 or Toxic Substances and Hazardous Waste and Nuclear Waste Control Act of 1990. RA 9275 is our fourth, or the Philippine Clean Water Act. And we have the RA 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act. We also have the DAO or DNR Administrative Order 2014-02 or Revised Guidelines for Pollution Control Officer Accreditation. So we will know why these things are important, especially this DAO 2014-02 for the accreditation of pollution control officer. Okay, so that's very important for an industry to have a PCO. Alright. So first we have what are the legal framework and why they're important. So legal frameworks, these are the laws or DAOs or PDs that we need to baseline our activities or our programs, especially when you are a PCO or you're a liaison for environmental activities. Okay, very important. So first we have the Philippine Constitution or the 1987 Philippine Constitution. That's our legal framework. That's a very basic one. Second is the PD 115 or the Philippine Environmental Policy. Okay. So environmental policy that says everything. Third is EO 192 of 1987 providing for the reorganization of the Department of Environment, Energy and Natural Resources, renaming it as the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and other purposes. Fourth, we have PD 1586, the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System, or the PEISS, and that's a long PD to study with. So we have fifth DAO 2003-30, implementing rules and regulations for the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System. And that's our baseline or framework as the PCO. So we can see kung saan yung CNC or non-coverage for your projects, for example. If part pa siya ng critical areas or non-critical areas. Ano yung kailangan na certificate if you belong to that group or category. So, malalaman natin dyan. Okay, next we have EMB Memorandum Circular number 2015-003, implementing of online processing of certificate on non-coverage CNC applications for Category D projects under PISS. So this is another supporting documents or legal framework that we have to base on, especially that we were part of the project based on the PISS that I mentioned earlier. So those are the six legal frameworks, important legal frameworks to study on, especially when you have the plan to become a pollution control officer. So as an environmental engineering student as well, you have to understand those things. Those are basic because when I was in college, I haven't taken to study them because uh, there are no subject I think where we have the environmental courses, but it doesn't talk about everything here that I mentioned. So this is very special. And alright, so next I have to talk each of the laws that I have mentioned earlier. But first, today we will be talking about the RA 8749, or Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999. Clean Air Act. So, why is it very important for that? Okay, because we have the right to breathe clean air. Okay, that's our basic rights, to have to breathe clean air. According to Rule number 5, section of Dow 2000-81. Take note of that. Rule number 5, section of Dow 2000-81, section 1. Section 1. Okay, that's a recognition of rights. So the state is recognizing our right to breathe clean air. Okay, that's very basic. So how to ensure air quality in the vicinity or in your area, in your community. So if you're in the industry, how would you ensure air quality? Okay, so we have, of course, air quality monitoring or sampling. So if you are a PCO, you know how to take note of, or how to take use of air quality monitoring or sampling. Okay, so why is it important, or air quality monitoring is important? Because, okay, because environmental monitoring helps to create baseline for the impact of industrial pollutants in the air, land, and water. Okay? So this is para malaman natin kung ano yung impact. Okay? How adverse, or how, okay, kasi titingnan pa rin natin yung how adverse the effects of the air, land, and water. Okay? So that's our environmental monitoring. Okay, so why is it important for that? So why air quality is important? Okay, so according here, good outdoor air quality is found to control. On average, a person inhales about 14,000 liters of air every day, and that's very true. And the presence of contaminants in this air can adversely affect people's health. People with pre-existing respiratory and heart conditions. So that's very important why we have this air quality monitoring. So that kung meron kasi tayong standard okay? Meron tayong standard kung limit na kailangan ng pollutants doon sa air, because we have existing, we have this gases, we have the water vapor, we have carbon dioxide, nitrogen, etc. in the atmosphere. If exceeding to that amount of in the atmosphere could have an adverse effect to our health, especially to those who have pre-existing respiratory and health conditions. Okay, so we have here two types of air quality monitoring or sampling. Okay, we have stack sampling, that is very common, I think, or this one is more common. Ambient air quality or ambient air sampling is the second one. First, stack sampling. Second, ambient air sampling. What's the difference? Stack sampling, we have source emission monitoring, and okay, we have to monitor or to measure the emission or the pollutant emissions or contamination emissions on the source itself. Okay, so I think this is because we have two types of sources: point source and mobile sources. Point source, we say point source. These are the source that are not mobile. They're fixed. They are not movable. Unlike the mobile one. Okay, mobile one are those vehicles. They are moving. Okay, but they produce almost the same amount of pollution. Second, ambient air sampling. So ambient air sampling is basically an ambient air quality monitoring. Okay, so that's the difference, basic difference. We will dig through to it. Okay, stack sampling is a source sampling, as I've said earlier. Method of collecting representative samples of pollutant laden or air gases at the place of origin pollutants to determine the total amount of pollutants. So they're representative sample or samples of your pollutants. So we measure the pollutants from the source itself. Okay. Okay, so how many times you will have to measure when it comes to, if you are a pollution control officer? Of course, you have to take note of to look back on your ECC or environmental compliance certificate. Okay, but mostly you have to conduct stock sampling. The minimum is twice a year. Twice a year. It could be quarterly, or it could be CMS or continuous environmental monitoring sampling. Okay, that's CMS. So this is very important as well. Who will conduct a stock sampling? Because if you are a PCO, of course, if you're a fresh graduate and you're applied for a pollution control officer position, you would think that you will do everything. You will do every testings in your company, especially in the pollution. In pollution, okay? Example in air sampling. But to take note, to tell you the truth, DNR accredited DNR emission testing firm should take that stack sampling or the air sampling in general. Okay. Second one is the ambient air quality monitoring or sampling. Okay. So why we need to conduct such? Of course, to check compliance of air quality to the DNR standards. Second is air quality has a significant health impact, as I've said, and it's very necessary to monitor them. That's very basic and very logical. Okay. Of course, we need to establish data and make use of it as implementing programs related to air quality. Because if you are a PCO or environmental licensed person, you have to make sure that you have all the data, you have all the bases of your possible actions in the long run. So, second, risk records are important when there are concerns raised from the neighboring communities and interested parties. For example, nagrereklamo yung neighboring communities mo because of your pollution. So, and if you don't have the data, if you don't have the record to say that it's safe and the amount that you have, that your sources have emitted lower or acceptable or standard cubic meter, that's a cubic meter, acceptable pollution, okay, then you'll be liable to that. You'll have to answer all of that. A side bit to talk. Okay, so let's talk about noise pollution. Okay, is it part of the air one of the air pollution? Of course it is. Noise control regulations assess that it is part, of course, of the pollution, of the air pollution that we need to control, that we need to have the record or data with. Okay, so Presidential Decree number 984, Chapter 4. So those are the laws that are existing for the environmental engineering. Okay, for the environmental laws. And this, of course, this video is to really inspire as well all the environmental engineers out there. If you dream to become one, then you have to study them. You have to familiarize them at least, because at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to understand every environmental laws to protect what we are doing. Okay, because we cannot really have taken an action. We can take an action if we don't have any basis, a legal basis to be exact. So we have to study, we have to understand, and of course we need to coordinate with the government as well.